Now, we live in a very bizarre time for gaming. I think we can agree on that. And a lot of that bizarreness comes from the fact that AAA gaming, the AAA sector of the industry, can just pump millions and millions of dollars into basically nothing that anybody wants. And then sometimes the studio gets shut down, sometimes some random third-party studio gets shut down as a punishment for the orders that came down from the first-party studio. Like, it's very strange up at the top of the gaming industry right now. But if there's one thing that I think we can all agree upon, is that being transparent with the consumers is a good thing. That's part of why things like Steam charts and Steam DB are so popular, because it allows you to tell right away if a developer is lying, if a game actually is or is not successful. To some degree, it does bother me when people take the Steam charts and the concurrent players of single player games and try to flog the developers or flog the consumers over it, when single player games do not rely upon concurrent players. But you can tell something about a single player game by the concurrent players during the launch window, stuff like that. But for multiplayer games especially, Steam charts have been very damning for certain games. It's a lot easier to sell people on multiplayer slop if they can't see it is multiplayer slop that nobody's playing. Which is why this thread kind of went viral the other day from someone named Jade Law, who is quote tweeting Rhino, and Rhino says, "What gaming opinion will you defend like this? Yes, you are all wrong." That meme, like an unpopular opinion that you will absolutely defend. It's a fun format. I have plenty of hot takes like this. For example, one of my hot takes, I actually don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think sports games with no gimmick are just boring. Sports games where it's just a complete like a one-to-one sports sim, stuff like Madden or like NBA 2K or MLB The Show. I think those games are just inherently boring. If I wanted a sports sim, I would just watch actual sports. I think the only way to make a good, like, actual fun sports video game is to have some kind of gimmick in there. Stuff like Backyard Baseball, stuff like MLB Slugfest. Do you remember that? MLB Slugfest kicked ass. Even stuff like the older Madden games. Like, I grew up playing Madden 08 with my dad. That game was, by definition a sports sim, but it still leaned very heavily on the video gamey aspects of it, with stuff like the hit stick mechanic and all the goofy modifiers you could throw into the game. I think that's something that sports games have completely lost nowadays, and it makes sports games not fun anymore. That's just my opinion. But anyways, Jade Law comes in and says their unpopular opinion is, quote, "Steam player count being visible is doing irreparable and unnecessary damage to a lot of games." Aww, think of the poor publisher. Think of the poor failed developer. Think of the poor AI slop that nobody's playing. And before we get into this thread, I want to read through, because Jade Law was working hard to defend his dog shit take. I mean, what else are you going to do? You work for a failed developer that nobody's heard of. Oops, I got ahead of myself there. Yeah, if you go to Jade Law's profile, Jade Law is a game developer at wardog.co. I've never heard of wardog.co. Let's just go to that website. The website says it is Wardog Studios is a FPS developer. You scroll down their website and there's just a whole bunch of icons for existing video games that you can't click on these icons. Like, you can't click on them. There's a bunch of random studio icons like other developers. Can't click on any of those either. There's no information on the website about how they're actually associated with any of these things. So are they a support studio, or what do they do? You go back up to the top of the website, you go to their portfolio, and you need a fucking password to see their portfolio. Okay? What if I want to contact you? Alright, first name, last name, email, message, whatever. Alright, don't do it for open roles. Let's go to your open roles. You're not currently hiring. Picture of a dog. And I just want to see what the fuck you work on. But apparently what you work on is entirely secretive. The only information that you have on your website as a game developer is a bunch of icons that I can't click on for other studios and other games that you didn't actually come up with. So this tells me nothing, and with how dog shit your takes are, which we're going to get into, I kind of just think that you are yet another talentless hack trying to make their way as a game developer by leeching off the work of other people. But let's just go back to this tweet. Steam player count being visible is doing irreparable and unnecessary damage to a lot of games. Let's just go through the thread that you created here. let's just hear your responses. Let's hear your arguments as to why it's actually a bad thing for the consumer to have more information about the thing that they are buying. Let's hear why it's actually bad for the consumer buying a multiplayer game to have information about how many people are playing said multiplayer game. It is a bad thing for the consumer to have information about the game. Sincerely, the game developer. Let's just hear how you defend this. Macro Art says, I don't think transparency causes damage here. It's shown a lot of people when live service games are about to collapse. It also shows game quality in a way Steam review scores, or even worse, journalist scores, cannot. It has also helped show publishers and devs which audiences are willing to vote with their wallet and which audiences don't. Jade Law says, I would argue player count has nothing to do with quality. Phenomenal ratio. You're doing terrific. Player count has nothing to do with quality. Look, if you boil it down to the most literal sense, then yeah, sure. I can boil anything down that far though. Yeah, there are great single player games that have low player counts because they're single player games, doesn't matter. There's also really shitty multiplayer games with high player counts because they're shitty lowest common denominator multiplayer games. But what Macro Art is very obviously referring to here is the idea that if a game comes out with a giant budget, lots of advertising, we want everyone on this game, and then the Steam charts show that people just aren't really sticking with it, then yes, that is a representation of a lack of quality in a live service game. When you see something like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, that is a representation of poor live service quality. It is a game that is explicitly trying to sell itself on the metrics that would be represented by a positive Steam chart. So when you see a negative Steam chart, it is a representation of the fact that those qualities are not good in that game. But according to you, player count has nothing to do with quality. Okay. What else do you have to say? Motherfucking Zeus says, not at all. Helped me save a ton of money on mediocre and bad games. Also helps me not buy dead games with no multiplayer base left. Jude Law says, meh, bad filter. Size doesn't mean bad or even dead. Committed communities can be small. I literally loved playing Risk Online and it had like 200 people playing, but those 200 people, we had a great time for years. Holy shit, that's the worst comparison I've ever heard in my life. This is what I mean when I say, obviously, we are talking about modern AAA live service games, and how player counts are very much, yes, an indication of quality in those. But also, how many people do you even need to play Risk Online? Because on one hand, I sympathize. I played a lot of Plutonium in my day. Call of Duty Plutonium. Player counts in that game were never huge, but there was a passionate community that I could reliably play with. Does that mean that COD Plutonium was worthy of a 6-7 figure budget? Obviously not. I hate this thing that people do where they respond to a very obvious statement with a niche example that the obvious statement wasn't even referring to. Oh, I love this one though. Jet says, as cool as it would be to be able to see this stat, it stops people from actually playing some games they would otherwise be interested in. And Jade Law says, yeah, it becomes self-fulfilling. So many games used to turn it around, but now they're DOA. Wait, but I thought you didn't need a big community of games to be alive, Jade. I thought there was a small community on Risk Online, and those games are fine. But now, if the Steam charts are low, the game is DOA, and it's entirely the Steam charts' fault? Which one is it? Also, I have not once been interested in a live service game, like really interested in the gameplay loop, and then turned off the game because of the Steam charts. That had, I don't know about you guys, that has not one time happened to me. Maybe it's because I'm an actual gamer who doesn't really give a shit about the kinds of games that are only there to cheese Steam chart engagement, but that's kind of my point. The only games that would be murdered by low Steam charts, like if you saw the Steam charts and then just didn't even try the game, the only games that I would be deterred from in that case are games that weren't really high quality anyways and were just engagement baiters. Not once has this actually happened to me. And I don't think that's even happened to you, Jade, because you yourself just said that you've had plenty of fun on games with low player counts. But now here you are saying that low player counts can, oh, these games are DOA, they can't turn around. Which one is it, Jade? Which one is it? Are you advocating for player transparency, or are you advocating for just automatic success of big budget games? It's one or the other in this situation, because you yourself framed the conversation like this. If I'm misrepresenting your point here, that's your fault. This guy says, do you really think most players here are discussing games? I'd say the opposite is true, so the conversation around charts doesn't matter much. Jade Law says, I see people discussing the death of games they haven't even played because of the numbers, absolute NPC behavior. Yeah, no, totally. When I discuss the death of a game, it's because I didn't play it. I mean, I only didn't play that game because of the numbers, right? When I discuss the death of, I don't know, Marathon, or the death of Concord, or the death of, what's that one called? I forget the name. High Guard. Fucking ex-Titanfall dev Overwatch. When I discuss the death of these games, yeah, no, I totally wasn't just playing those games because of the Steam charts. That's the only reason I didn't play those games. It's because I saw the Steam charts and then I decided not to play them. It's not because there was anything obviously blatantly wrong with the game themselves, and the Steam charts were just a representation of that. No, I didn't play those games because the Steam charts alone, even though, you know, High Guard launched to Steam charts numbers like this, and Marathon had Steam charts numbers like this, so you can't even argue that low Steam charts killed these games because they had perfectly acceptable, and in some cases, perfectly good Steam charts at first. They just couldn't maintain those Steam charts because maybe, oh, the games were bad. Jade, who even are you? Like, what? Why can't games just be bad? And why can't Steam charts just be a representation of the fact that there are bad games? Why does that hurt you so much? Why does the existence of failed bad games offend you so personally? Maybe if I could actually see what fucking games your studio worked on, I would understand a little more, but your studio literally won't tell me what games they worked on. So I choose to believe that you only worked on Concord and High Guard. Those are the only two games your studio has ever worked on, and I'm just declaring that to be so. Wait, Joe, that's not true. Okay, show me what games your studio worked on, but you're not going to do that. Next comment. Ness says, explain your stance on how it's damaging and not actually helping determine areas of weak marketing. Which is a very good comment. Jade Law says, because player count has nothing to do with quality, and a lot of games used to be able to engage with smaller starting communities to encourage growth over time. Now games are more likely to be abandoned because people see the low figures and assume it's not worth trying. A small dedicated community has saved games like Warframe. Wait, but Warframe existed during the time of Steam charts. Warframe existed during the time of Steam charts. We can literally look at the Steam charts for Warframe from the start of its time. What? Also, by this logic, how do you explain games like the finals? You're arguing that games with a small but dedicated community just can't exist anymore, but there's a laundry list of games that have existed, or at least started, with small and dedicated communities during the time of Steam charts. Literally, what are you saying? This really reads like a dev who's just butthurt by the fact that people didn't want to play the fucking slop he was making, and he's so proud of the slop he's making, he literally won't tell you what he worked on. The art book collector says, I agree with this as well. Hopefully in the case where toxic social media is being harsh on the game, seeing that it has a high player count probably helps people realize it's just the vocal minority. It could be good for some successful indies too, but overall I'm with you on this. And Jade Law says, unfortunately it kills more than it helps. Yes, because the only reason a game could possibly lose players is if there were toxic communities. You know, if there's a whole bunch of people playing a game, but then toxic conversation exists, well, you know, that big community just poof goes away. Jade, you're genuinely retarded if you believe this. Then here's just some of my favorite responses to this thread. The level-headed people have arrived. Devin says, imposed transparency is doing irreparable harm to our ability to defraud the customer. Oh, fuck off. Connor says, oh no, companies can't lie to their audiences and investors because Steam is transparent with player count. Leave the multi-billion-dollar company alone. Person whose name I can't figure out how to pronounce says, one of the big problems in gaming right now is that there's too much transparency for the consumer and we can't lie to our investors as much. This is a problem that needs to be fixed. Ever notice how this never seems to affect games that are actually good? Revenant says, it's actually good when hubristic, talentless hack developers fall on their faces. And then Jade Law, after getting roasted across the internet, just makes a quote tweet and says, people often ask me how I navigate social media. Well, as soon as I notice 5+ replies from people who aren't moot/devs, I simply mute the thread and move on. So if you're not this right here is the biggest problem with modern game development. If you are not a developer or a moot who is just someone in the developer's pocket, if you are not one of those people and you notice the devs saying a thing, they will mute the entire thread and move on. They literally they're just openly exclaiming that they actively want to live in an echo chamber. And they are so confident in their echo chamber that the only people whose opinion that they'll listen to are other devs, because that's how confident they are that other devs are also in an echo chamber. Like, what happens if 5 or more devs come around and say, yeah, we disagree with you? Then do you mute the thread? Yes, of course you would mute the thread. Shut the fuck up saying this is a thing about devs. It's just gamers don't get it. It's a dev thing. No, it is a pompous, self-absorbed, anti-gamer thing. And that's why you have to mute so many threads. You fucking hack of a fucking dev fuck. I've been sitting on this one for like a week. You can see in the fucking dates of the thread that these screenshots were taken like almost exactly a week ago. I've been sitting on this one for a while. It just depresses me. It just depresses me. Truly, what am I supposed to take away from the fact that a developer, they could be fake, they could be not fake, but I mean, they sure seem to believe they're a developer because they only listen to other developers. But if I'm taking this thread at face value, what am I supposed to take away from the fact that a developer has just open disdain for the idea of transparency with their consumers? What am I supposed to take away from that? Fuck myself in the asshole? Alright, sure, I'll take that away from this whole situation. Doofus Club time. Muskie, Biogenesis, Cloaked Onyx, Pickle Up in a Bowler Hat, Biscuit 101, Snikes, Blue Hook, Joe, I dare you to play Superman 64, you coward. Alright, fuck you, I'll do it. Partial Man 8, Jack Kennedy, Nate, Baseball Sucks, Platypoi, Hitsin Sinoi, Hithen Thoi, Bill 310 Shui, Avatar Steve Oi, Game with Dead People, Leoi, Game of the Gamer 1270 Toy. Fuck, that was not a funny bit. Chris, Void, Jake, Spider Monkey 94, hashtag Hillybilly Vanilli. Ow. Polypingus 97, Hyperactive Turtle, Cards, Grimsy, Official Dregs, Google the Harpeggi, It's Amazing Instrument, Blast 1340, Maya Setsuna, West of Rex, I own 6, Slick, Click, Flicks, a Blu-ray discs, Delta 169, Baron, Vod, Vodahom, Unicorn, Rocco, AI, Slop, Mix, Microsoft, Tish, Nixie, Smile, Dirty Mike, and the boys. Weep, Sporgs, and 11 dozen eggs, walking to a bar, yes, Max V2 Gaming, It's a Hard Nug Life, Nice Dude, One Man Savage, No Payoff, Vector, Vendetta, Archie, Mechanical Resonance, Sick Nick, Matt Fox 94, Exchange Induction, Stick Rider, Broken Crown, Profit Backing, Hersheyana Squirts in the Temple of the Boom Boom. Boom Boom means poopies, Vast Dennis. Oh, Dennis. Klepto Penguin, the Jojo 6, Mole Theme, Really, Zerd, Oracle, Jimmy Chops, Master Killer, Tom Schnorlax, and Unknown 18 They said, oh, Highguard doesn't mean that many players. Oh, but Steam Charts killed Highguard. Steam Charts did it. Steam Charts did it. Highguard doesn't need that many players, but because Steam Charts exist, oh, now low players are a problem. Ooh, I don't think low players are the problem. I think Steam's transparency is the problem. Fuck it all. Sue Steam. Sue Steam some more. Valve should be sued into oblivion because of reasons I won't explain. Ed Shadowbearer 1789, Benefon 2, T-Train, Biscuit Club, Anon Vola, High Vox Auto, Snake Eyes 327, MK2396E, X Gamer. Fire has 105 Tech Gaming, Slim Jim, Lord Bowser, the second Joe laughs as the Mo, Gay Local Little Dodison, PC Gamer, Jack Shepard, Rick's Power, Dick Dabby, Dial the DLSS 5, Touchman No, place the video games, Group of the Steel Angel, leave the art direction alone, and video fucking DLSS 5, Cyrus 6771, GX 940, OMG, you were right, it was E, you're so smart, Joe Creed, words, Warren, Max, Judge, totally insane, Black Cobra, the Animal Slayer, Night of Sever, ML04, Wolf of Night, EKW, Steve Winston News, Bill Hacker, Gaining Treat, Brown Thord, Skane, Magan X, Severn, Emers, Mr. Spinal 3s, Callie for Wyoming, Pow Pow, Donnie Weston, Gob Gonson, Rogue Winter 919, Zach Thang, Hangman for Hire, Elman Noble, Frost Crystal by Genesis. What the fuck? Why do I keep doing that? Scruffy Skull, Ghost Ho, Reese, Soggy, Raptor Tim, Almost 74, Winning Down, Face of Win, Wicked Out. I do like your music. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Jody Petey, Smitty, it's just Smitty now. It's just Smitty, I've decided. Make advertisement, do you see it? Begins American Indian, Harvest, Legend, Oh no, it's just my Rooney. Toonie Win, Xfinity Wolf 7, Retro, Westa, Dylan Cease for Cy Young 2026, Veg, Goob, Nana, Colonel Specs, All Haven, Joe PT is in baseball, just round cricket. No, it's not. I really want a cheese enchilada. I really want one. I really want one right now. There's a Mexican restaurant down the street from my house that I love. They such good food, and they do like fucking fishbowl margaritas. I kind of want to go do that tonight. I don't even care that it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's bloody Tuesday. All right. Old memes. Okay, toodles.